I have something to say.
मुझे कुछ कहना है.
Mình phải nói cái gì?
J'ai quelque chose à dire.
Tengo algo que decir.
I have something to say.
This is Chad and Erika, and we have something to say.
Hi guys, thanks so much for joining for another episode of Something to Say. For this week, we thought it would be best to take a breather with the holiday upon us and spend some time with our families as you all do the same, and just kind of take a second to reflect as we celebrate, on the independence of the United States as a country. As we celebrate today, we do have to kind of reflect on the fact that today wasn't really much of an Independence Day for all Americans, unfortunately. Obviously, there are different benefits that have started to, and advancements that have come about, through time, but full freedom, and just independence, maybe that hasn't been achieved, or that benefit hasn't passed on to some members, and that's something that we kind of have to reflect on as a nation. And it's funny because we just celebrated, I don't know if you even want to say celebrated, but Juneteenth, which for me, I'm from Jamaica, so we celebrate our Emancipation Day on August 1st, and then the Independence Day is on August 6th. So pretty much for that whole week, we're just celebrating and everything, but that's our Emancipation Day. The American Emancipation Day would be Juneteenth, because that's the last day that's the day when Texas finally acknowledged that the enslaved people that were in their state were free. So that's the day when it was fully enacted and acknowledged that the enslaved people were emancipated. So that's really the Independence Day, quote unquote, for Black Americans, I can say. But I know that, in the future, we're going to be seeing 2 weeks or 3 weeks of just parties between Juneteenth till now. So, but it's just interesting and it's good that we're seeing the celebration of Juneteenth become more prevalent. But that's, really the quote unquote Independence Day that Black people, Black Americans, from what I get it, celebrate. That's something that we really do have to reflect on as a country. There are a lot of hypocrisies like that here, especially in this cancel culture topic that is ever present. And the hypocrisy in it really shows, just in the fact that, for example, we realize ultimately that canceling someone, generally it is something that's doable if the person doesn't have money. So money plays a big part in, so generally canceling someone is way more quote unquote effective if the person doesn't have money and they're not rich or have a platform. So ultimately, some people can't be canceled. They can be blackballed from Hollywood, but that's usually not in step with cancel culture. That's usually, the people with the upper hand making the decision to blackball, someone like Kathy Griffin. Like, what happened to her? She was more blackballed or whatever. But I wouldn't say she was canceled because, yeah, that's a whole other story. But I realized that with canceling people, there's just this inconsistency where people with money and a platform like Kanye West and Kim Kardashian and just these different people that say and do whatever and just get away with it. Ultimately, anyone with money can say and do whatever they want. and they can just shut up right afterwards and don't say anything. Like Lana Del Rey, like she was apparently canceled a few months ago, but I'm sure she's still out living her life and just doing what she can do because like she got money. Like she doesn't need to like answer to us, you know. What's interesting in her case is that, you know, based on what she was saying and her response after she got the criticism of, you know, being blind to her statement and how it erased people of color or women of color rather, she hasn't said anything, you know, throughout, well, not that I've seen at least, throughout this movement. She hasn't like made any sort of statement of support, or you know, she isn't really vocal. But I mean, she's never really been that person to be vocal in any case. Like you don't really hear Lana Del Rey like or see her in the media a lot. Like you'll catch a photo of her in her police boo every now and then, but that's about it. And I stand corrected. So she has been going to protest from what I'm seeing. So she is supporting the movement. But yeah, I mean, I still haven't really seen her mention anything or whatever in regards to the movement. But someone else that we could compare, you know, include is J.K. Rowling. Because of her recent comments as it relates to the trans community, as it relates to them being quote unquote women. What in her case, she's questioning whether or not trans women are actually women, or if they should be classified in the same category as women, which that's led to her being quote unquote canceled by a lot of people. But J.K. Rowling, she has her money. Like, she is still around and still ever present. She even participated in a public letter denouncing cancel. But I mean, maybe instead of canceling her right now, we can use this moment to kind of engage, and even maybe not engage, but just use this moment as an opportunity to educate people. And I mean, a lot of people don't really understand, and you know, I'm still learning on this topic. So just to kind of educate everyone and let them know, I mean, not that it's anyone's responsibility to educate people, but it's a great opportunity to have a discussion, you know, for us to just talk it out and help each other to understand better if we have questions. So we have to allow people and our friends and, you know, anyone to be able to come out and say, hey, so why again is this the case? Or even if they don't want, you know, obviously they can go online and just check, but people have to be able to ask questions. And that's one of the things that they mentioned in the letter, which I personally agree with. I think that, you know, people should be allowed to ask questions and fuck up and learn from it and show that growth. Though there's some people that aren't making that growth or showing any remorse or anything. But that's the whole point of this. Cancel culture is just really inconsistent when it comes to people like Amy Miller, who doesn't have a platform. Probably, I mean, we don't know that girl's life, but she might not have money like that, you know. And she definitely doesn't have money like Kanye West or like Kim Kardashian. But like I said, we don't know that girl's money. But canceling somebody like her versus canceling somebody like Kanye and Kim Kardashian is much harder, especially when, let's say, these people are canceled for political reasons or for supporting somebody like a Donald Trump. Imagine that. They would still have the support of the people that encourage or agree with them, you know, which is still a lot of people. There's still a lot of money to be made out of that, you know, and they're running a business. Let's say Kanye is still worried about selling his Yeezys. if he just gets 3 million sales from Trump supporters, he's fine. But yeah, so it's just some reflection that has to happen. Something else I wanted to touch on was just the fact that it's been interesting as a Caribbean national, just and looking in the media, just seeing how the movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, has expanded to the Caribbean and Latin America, and even to Europe and places like Italy, where racism is entrenched. But for the Caribbean, it has brought up conversations, and I guess it was also the timing with the Windrush scandal that just took place. For many of you that don't know, back in the day, a lot of Jamaicans and other Caribbean nationals, I believe it was Caribbean nationals, got the opportunity to move to England. So they got pretty much a big boat and they put everybody on, and then they went across the Atlantic to the UK. But recently, well, they went there pretty much because it was just after the war, I believe, and they needed people to fill jobs and, get the country running again, build the country. So they encouraged people in their dominion, in the Commonwealth, to move to the UK. So, but recently these people that moved there, they've been deported and they found it hard to get citizenship, mainly because of a lack of documentation in a lot of these cases, because the program wasn't so regularized. It was just a bunch of people just hopping on a ship and they're there. And over the years, a lot of people even lost documents, as you can imagine. This movement has kind of raised that conversation up again. And just the fact that a lot of Caribbean nationals feel like the UK and Europe really got off easy with, let's just say, the enslavement of our forefathers. These European countries were able to explode in wealth, and they pretty much, after a certain day in August of 18, I don't know, whatever year we got independence and emancipation, but independence was 1962, and I believe the emancipation year is 1834. But these European countries pretty much just moved on and they abandoned, these countries that, one, they'd never run a country before. And then you automatically get this power. Of course, there's going to be corruption and there's no oversight or anything, These countries obviously took on like a lot of the systems that the UK had. So that's kind of why we have a parliamentary system and stuff like that. So you can even see the effects of colonialism on these countries today. Just like how you can still see the effects of racism on America today. Like, these things don't just go away, But they've definitely gotten off easy with just the benefits that they got. And just like in America. And that's a conversation that also needs to be had. Ultimately about reparations and some sort of what form that would look like. And how feasible it would be. Because I'm sure that is a question that a lot of people have, and how feasible something like that would be. It definitely would be an all-in approach. But I've heard some interesting ideas, for somewhere like the Caribbean. I think that would definitely include some form of monetary compensation from the government. It's clear that they have the money because they spend millions on, just like America spends millions on the military and just unnecessary prioritization of the militarization of the world. So they definitely have the money for it, and they can take it from that if it is that it's really important to them. But it's obvious that it's not. So, but we have to really talk about how feasible and just the different forms that reparations would take place. But happy Independence Day to everyone that celebrates it. Erika and I were able to get out and have some fun, and we're still with our families for this time. So, like I said, we're gonna just we are going to just do our next episode, so you can look out for that this following Wednesday, and we'll just add in for this week. We will just replay the cancel culture episode, because I think that's still very relevant, especially with the recent updates with Kanye, wanting to run for president, although he should have been canceled. I don't know. He's just, like I said, like people with money just can't necessarily be canceled like that. Though I don't know. It's just weird. But I definitely want to include or have you guys listen to the cancel culture episode again, just because of what's happening in today, like, or current news again, with Donald Trump apparently wanting to make a new monument of statues of people like Robert E. Lee and etc. Which is cancel culture. Like, these people have been canceled, so why are we still celebrating them? Versus canceling somebody that's still alive, like Kanye West or Lana Del Rey, or any of the recent cancelees. So just kind of think on that, and look out for a following episode, and enjoy.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining our podcast. Today we're going to discuss cancel culture. Cancel culture, I looked up the definition just so everyone knows exactly what this is.
Wait, where has the definition for cancel culture? Is that like
I just Googled
Urban Dictionary?
I just Googled it. It's from Wikipedia. It says,
Wikipedia has everything.
The act of canceling, also referred to as cancel culture, describes a form of boycott in which an individual, usually a celebrity, who has shared a questionable or controversial opinion or has had behavior in the past that is perceived to be offensive, recorded on social media. Now, the main question when I wanted to talk about this topic was, when is it appropriate to forgive, and how long should someone be quote unquote canceled for until we allow them back into,
society, pretty much.
Yeah. And we thought this was a very relevant topic just because over the last few days, we've seen so many celebrities and influencers be canceled because of certain racial slurs that they said 5-10 years ago. And it kind of brought, I don't know, I had some sort of feelings towards it, because I understand why people were upset. I understand why certain deals were broken with certain companies. Yeah. But I also was like, wait, have they shown any growth since then? Is cancel culture really necessary? Is this something that we need to continue to do? Or are we kind of not allowing people to grow by doing this? Because I feel like if someone's shaming me about an idea or thought that I had, instead of educating me and being like, you are wrong, this is how things are, I feel like I would accept it better or be more willing to understand and educate myself. And so I thought it would be like an interesting topic to discuss, especially during a time like this where a lot of celebrities and influencers are being targeted.
Yeah. Even today, we just had, 3 or 4 people be canceled?
I'm a big fan of Vanderpump Rules, so I was really disappointed to see the actions that some of the celebrities in that cast have done in the past. So Kristen and Stassi, they're 2 of the reality TV stars from Bravo on Vanderpump Rules that have just recently been fired due to
like racist actions or
racist
whatever.
actions and comments that they have made in the past, as well as 2 of their male castmates. So I don't know. I was for certain people. I'm not being specific on the whole Vanderpump Rules situation. But I think for other people, I have seen a lot of growth where they've brought in a lot of diverse people on their show, their podcast, in their YouTube video, and have shown a lot of diversity and willingness to understand and educate themselves and now educate others. And I see people pull up old tweets, old messages, old Instagram posts, and now they're immediately canceled by society. So I just don't know, when is it appropriate to cancel someone and when is it...
When do we move on?
Yeah.
You know, I totally get that, because like even me, I find myself grappling with that question, because I do believe that people can change. But I think for me, and in general, there's a lot of these situations, because we all see these apologies on social media. Like, you never know when it's really sincere. And I think... I don't know. For some people and for myself, that I think that's a problem. Just because there's just this one apology, and sometimes the apology isn't. And
it's
even
a very
necessarily
generic
sincere.
apology, and I think that's the issue a lot of people have. We have issues with them crying and being emotional about it. Then we also have issues with them just being direct and being like, "I'm sorry. This is what I said, and these were my thoughts back then. This is definitely not the person that I am now." I think they need to kind of show what they've done. Like, hey, yes, I've said this, and since then, and not at that time, I was like 20 years old, and I didn't know anything about X or Y. But this is me now, and this is what I've done to show you that I am no longer that person. I think that would be different. But I think a lot of people still don't accept that. I think a lot of people still don't accept those type of apologies, or even if they see donations being made and different actions being taken to show that they are an ally now, I think a lot of people still don't accept that as like okay, now you're
being able to move on. You know, and I totally get that, because like I said, I do agree that people will change, and you know, acknowledging the problem is probably the first part. In a lot of these cases, though, where it's like very generic, like these people haven't even started to seek penance for, you know, the wrong that has been committed, because that, you know, I didn't grow up in America, you know, so I can imagine, and even from what I've heard and from my own experiences as a Black man in Jamaica, just that word carries a lot of weight. So having someone use it so freely, and then, you know, wanting to just apologize and then think everything should be good, you know, I don't think that's necessarily the way to go.
And do you think the context matters? Because like when we were talking, discussing this topic for the podcast, I brought up how a lot of kids in my like high school or even middle school would say the word, and they'd like say it along with their friends, and their Black friends wouldn't say anything, like, don't call me that, this is wrong. Not that they should have had to do that, but I think no one really was aware of how wrong it how like the weight that word carries on many Black people.
So for me, I'll start off by saying this. I've never, and am in no means giving any justification for anyone to use that word. I do have friends that have used it around me, and for me, like, I don't take offense to it personally, just because, especially if you're my friend, and like I know your intention, I know you're not using that word, like you said, in the context of wanting to hurt people. For a lot of people, that still doesn't cut it. Yeah. So, and I totally I get that.
I get that you shouldn't. And I think no one should say that. But I agree
with that too. Like, you know, like it shouldn't even be in our vocabulary.
Yeah.
You know? But for some reason in our society, it's definitely prevalent and still as common as ever.
And it's hard to, it's hard to kind of, for me to cancel someone on saying or like posting lyrics to like, and having the N-word be involved in those lyrics, or post something and call like a friend the N-word. And it's hard for me to cancel them if it was
a long time
10, 12 years ago, during a time that was found acceptable. I think if they're showing remorse and they've apologized and they're showing ways that now they're getting involved in a movement towards helping people understand better why these certain things are wrong, then I'm more willing to be like, wait, like why are we canceling this person? And then I feel like I don't really have a say because I'm not Black, so I can't be like, oh well, like I forgive you, or I don't agree with canceling that person, because it's like it's not they're not apologizing to me, they're apologizing to that Black community, male or female, or that community. So I don't know, it's hard for me to get on the bandwagon of that, even for other issues like the LGBTQ community, because a lot of people would talk so much crap about that community when I was younger, and that was just,
the F word flew a lot.
Yeah.
Even though
in high
it still
school,
flies.
Yeah, you know? and I don't think
and that is what I'll have a problem with. Let me just point it out there, just because there's no good way of using that word.
Yeah, but I don't think, especially when you're 16, 17, or even like just freshly out of high school, you really don't understand how, like, the certain things that that community had to go through. But I think if you've shown so much growth, then, like, I don't know, like, should we be canceling someone if they've shown that they're an ally now and they are supporting that community and helping them?
I think if they have shown that growth, if we can truly see that, like Jimmy Fallon, I don't watch a show or whatever, but I have heard about like the incident where some 20 years ago he was in blackface, and I don't know how it came up, but it came up and he had to apologize for it. In that case, for me, like, I think he definitely uses his platform to showcase, Black people are always on his show.
Yeah.
Like, not just Black people of color are always on his show. And he doesn't, it's not like they're like one and in between. Like, they're largely, the people that come on his show. And
and he supports a lot of rights for the LGBTQ community and the Black community.
And he's vocal about it on the show too.
Yeah. And that goes back to like my other comments, like, okay, but SNL wanted him. I don't know if the whole story behind it, but
they definitely
SNL
played a part,
approved or played some sort of part in him doing that. So should SNL also be accountable for that, because they had some sort of say
the writers or producers?
Yeah, and that meant that, and it's like also 10 years ago and 20 years ago was like a whole different time. Like, we didn't really understand the whole LGBTQ rights stuff. We didn't really view people in that community as really important. I don't think I've ever had I didn't have any friends in that community in high school. I didn't really see any
really
people
or
I didn't even.
That was not a time. I mean,
I didn't see that in high school. I didn't see others in their 20s, or any, like, when I would go out with my friends or my family or my parents, I didn't see like gay couples. I didn't see transgenders. I wasn't taught about that. So when I first got my first job and I was exposed to that, like, community, it was different. I was very accepting of it, and like my best friends are mainly gays. So, but for others, it might be like, I don't know. I just feel like for others, it might be different. They are exposed to it, and maybe their family has
racist or whatever opinions.
So I don't know. Back to the Jimmy Fallon thing, like 20 years ago was a whole different time. People were, not that they're not racist anymore, but they were more okay with certain...
That was definitely okay to be on TV, and
for that to be okay to do on television, and for no one to say anything to him for it, that should say a lot about the time, the change and the time that he was doing all that, like what was acceptable and what wasn't.
Mind you, a lot of people have pointed out that, you know, these programs, SNL and these different shows, a lot of them don't really have people of color in their in their writing groups or producers, as, you know, these people that are actually making these decisions. So sometimes there isn't even somebody to point out that, hey, maybe y'all shouldn't really do that. Yeah. You know, but that's also a part of the problem. Like, that's just going back to...
There's no diversity. There's no representation. There's no... I remember when Megyn Kelly made the comment about blackface and just seeing how people were really upset about it, I had to do some more, educate myself on what it exactly, why exactly people were upset about this, and educate myself on history. And so I think, I don't know how I feel about,
they're just canceling people.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree, like, you know, if somebody did something, especially if you're a teenager or whatever, you know, that's a time when we all do stupid things. Yeah. We all do stupid things. No matter what it is, we're all doing stupid things at that age, and we're all learning. And so I can't necessarily hold something I did even, or you did, or anybody did as a teenager against them, you know, because you're still growing, you're still maturing, your brain isn't even fully developed at that age. So once you're able to, for me, like, as long as you're able to, as a celebrity even, you know, because it'll be, I feel like it would be a little different even if it was like a friend of ours that, let's say, I don't know, I don't think I have any friends that, I don't know, I don't think I've ever been put into that situation. But speaking on it, you know, from a celebrity point of view, as in on celebrities, I think once they're able to make an apology and actually show real change, you know, I think that's the first step. But I think people that fall into that situation kind of have to make a more of a concerted effort into, one, educating themselves on the issue, and also kind of showing people, hey, not showing people, but I feel like you need to show yourself that this isn't who you are. So if that means that you are now going to be speaking up more when you encounter racism, because, or let's say you are on a show and you notice that the cast isn't diverse, speak up about those issues, you know, become educated on the things that are affecting the community so that you can start to become an advocate for that. Don't just become silent and fall back into the, you know, background and then like pretend everything's normal. So like Gina Rodriguez, that's one thing. Like I loved her shows, you know, I still do. I still love her shows or whatever, like, because those are classic, well, not classics, but those are really good for me, you know, like I really enjoyed them. But
they're
just
good for me.
yeah, they're good for me. That's but just how she went about that, I think that bothers me. You know, her apology was just not very sincere for me, honestly. Yeah. But that also raises another question, because her apology pretty much was saying that that's the community that she grew up in when she was growing up. Yeah, that's a culture.
That was one thing that I brought up when we were not recording, and I was like, a lot of people grow up with racist parents and parents that have stereotypes that push that onto their children. So you are in middle school and high school and you're with those racist thoughts, because that's what you grow up hearing. Yeah.
Your parents are telling you can't hang out with black people.
You can't do this, or you can't hang out with that gay person, or and just bashing all those communities and talking about them in a terrible way. And you grow up having those thoughts, but then you start to, like, for me, for instance, I don't think my parents were blatantly racist, did anything to harm any community, but my mom didn't want me to hang out with certain Hispanic girls because she assumed that or said that I might end up getting pregnant and not finishing high school. And I grew up and I I started working, I realized like, oh, these people are fun, or like certain stereotypes that I would hear my friends say about gay people, and I'd be like, wait, like I met someone at my job and they're gay and they're really fun and they're really nice,
and they
don't fit that stereotype. Yeah. So you start to kind of have your own thoughts on certain groups and you create your own judgments and grow as a person. So I just don't think that, I think that if somebody has shown so much growth within the last, let's say like 4 years, and now we're bringing up something that happened 12 years ago when they were 18 or 19, it's like they were still developing then, because at the same time they're still probably living with their parents and they had those racist thoughts. But maybe during that time, they ended up working just like I did, and they met a gay
kind of expanding their
friend or a black friend, and they started to realize, like, wait, these stereotypes do not fit these people. They're not one, like this. These groups of people or these communities are not every person, like, you can find these same judgments or stereotypes on a white person or whatever.
A straight
So I have a hard time with like canceling someone when this was something that was back when they were a lot younger, and if they've shown a lot of growth within that time frame of like 5-6 years, we shouldn't, I don't feel like we should be canceling someone for something like that, because as we're humans, we grow, politicians grow, and they apologize for the way that they used to think. Why can't normal people grow and develop and change their ideas or perspectives?
That's a good point. That's definitely a good point. And then even still on the like Gina Rodriguez thing, you know, and in general, just like people that grew up in largely black communities or places with a lot of black culture, like New York City, for example. Like if you notice, like people that aren't necessarily black that grew up in that area, they still I don't know, like the way they talk or whatever. I wouldn't necessarily even say it's like African American language or whatever, but the way they interact with people, the way they talk, the culture that they consume, a lot of it is based on where they grew up. Yeah. Like New York City, like Los Angeles, where you have people around you from various communities that are sharing that, you know, that culture with you. So for me, like even in those situations, I think, you know, not that justifies still like you using the N-word and all that, but I think that I don't know, growing up with that like culture around you, it makes that makes who you are, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, and that shapes who you are as a person, shapes how you interact with the world, it shapes the music you consume, the music you share, it shapes all of that. So I think that's a large part of, for some people that may be a large part of why Gina Rodriguez might have been, not that I'm justifying it, but you know, why she might have been singing that song, you know. But that's also to point out that there's a problem with our society, because if it is that no, we're having a problem with somebody using the N-word in a song, why was that okay 10 years ago? Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, okay, nobody said anything to that person 10 years ago. I'm sure it wasn't the first time. It was, so why is it that we have to bring up something that happened 10 years ago and cancel them for that if they're not doing it now? Like, shouldn't the actions of someone, the past actions matter a lot, but shouldn't we judge their growth and the person that they are at this moment? Because shouldn't we have something to say about then the culture that was back then? Because it's not just that one person. I'm sure there are a lot of people that were saying certain things and have now developed and grown so much based on new people that they interact with, how their new friends educate them on something. And so why are we canceling someone when we were okay with it 10 years ago?
And like you said, when they have made this reform change, you know, in their life. And, you know, if it's noticeable, or not even if it's notable, but like once that change has been made in their life and they become educated, I think that's a large step and a large move towards, you know, them, like, that. I don't think that's something that needs to be canceled.
Yeah.
Like them, like even
Jeffree Star.
Jeffree Star, yeah. So even like Jeffree Star, like that situation's a little different because, as you said, like he's the one that kind of came out and said, "Hey,
yes, I've said this," and like
kind of address the issue.
Yeah, and so I don't know what it is that people really want when certain things come up to the surface like this. Just like with a lot of celebrities and influencers that I've been seeing over the last few days, because it's like they were just as famous and rich and well known when they were saying these comments, yet we were okay with it. Why are we canceling them now and not 10 years ago when they said that? If we were okay with it then, and we're still okay with them now seeing their growth, like, yeah, apologize and address the issue. Tell me, but I want to know, what have you done to develop new thoughts and perspectives, and what are you going to continue to do? Who are you going to donate to if you feel like you need to do that as well? What are you going to continue to do or do going forward to show that you are not the person that you were 10 years ago?
Yeah, because, you know, even tying it back to what's happening today, we don't need the performative actions of, you know, the televised scripts and the PR, you know, PR reps, you know, telling you what to do and all that. Like, it needs to be genuine. It needs to be, like, you know, it needs to come from the heart. And, you know, working with these actions, or showing through these actions that you've changed, I think is fundamentally what really is going to get people to start, you know, supporting people again. Because you're right, like politicians all the time, like Joe Biden is a perfect example. But there were
so many policies that he had in place that targeted Black and brown people, and now he's aware of those issues and how his policies created more harm than good to the community. And
still hasn't even admitted, honestly, or confronted the fact that these policies have been so detrimental.
But aside from that, I think, like, just what you're saying about Joe Biden, there were so many things wrong things that they were doing back then. But now they're acknowledging, like, this, I realize this is wrong, and I am going to create new policies now that are going to help those communities. So I just don't really, I care about what you did. I think it depends on what exactly you did and what you said and what you've done since then, and to show me that you're an ally now. Yeah. And then also I want to know what exactly you're going to do going forward to show your continued growth.
Like, somebody that's still kind of, like, I know this person has apologized, and the actions that they did were technically when they were young, but, like, just, I guess, the magnitude of what happened with Mark Wahlberg. He physically assaulted people, and
with that, I don't know if I can get behind on forgiving someone like that. I think,
I don't know. There just has to be a lot.
Like, I don't know what checks off the box of, like, okay,
showing that you're reformed.
You've reformed. You've shown growth. You understand now.
Because even in his case, for example, like we saw just now, there's an article from 1993 where I was shocked. It said that, well, not shocked, but it said that he, you know, based on the agreement that he made, he had to make some videos pretty much denouncing racism and homophobia. from 1993, so he apologized and he also did these videos. Mind you, I was just born in 1993, so I don't know how all that went or like how effective it was. But let's say he did that, would that be enough for him to do? Would he have to do more? And I think ultimately that's the conversation that us as a society need to have. We need to start, asking ourselves, like, really what, because we can't cancel people forever, and two, ultimately, us canceling people, other people, like, dare I say white people, are still going to be consuming this these products. So like these movies that they're making or whatever, they're still going to be consumed on a large basis. So I think we need to use that platform like they did in Mark Wahlberg's case to maybe use that platform to speak out to other people that we might not have been able to, talk to before.
Yeah, it might be even an advantage of saying like, okay, this is being brought up now. What can you say that you've learned since then? What can you say to the people that support you that still have those terrible thoughts about this community? What can you say to them to change their perspective or to help them understand why you've evolved and why you've educated yourself on the topic? So I think that's a good point to, like, instead of canceling these people that are going to continue to be
in our society, they're still going to be famous and they're going to be rich. Like, then we can't change that.
Exactly. So how can we use that to our advantage to show others that still have those thoughts about Black or gay people or whatever group, or Asians, Hispanics? How can we use them to show that growth can happen and that changing your mind on certain individuals or communities is okay, that you can change your mind and your perspective on certain things, and you can go from being racist to someone that is now anti-racist and is an ally to the Black and brown community.
Yeah, I think that might be
more productive. It could be,
would be more productive to utilize that platform in order to speak out to, people that support that person that might still, like Eminem, for example. I love the fact that I don't really listen to his music that often, but I know that a lot of his songs speak out against Trump, and a lot of his supporters and the people that listen to him are people that do support Trump. So stuff like that is really meaningful, because that is making these people question, hey, like, damn, like Eminem, it's gonna make them upset and everything, but at least it is raising that conversation. It's making them think about it, like, and that's what needs to happen. Like, these things need to be in the forefront and they need to keep being discussed. So people that are being quote unquote canceled, this is a great opportunity to raise awareness for the issue that, the issues that we're facing, and just talk out about it. I mean, you have a platform and you can use it, so use it, use it and for the better, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, I mean, I don't know. I don't think we've really confronted that issue before, just figuring out how to deal with. Yeah. So that's something that our society is definitely going to have to grapple with. I feel like it's something
that's going to continue to happen right now, especially because of the Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of people are being held accountable for which they should be held.
Yes.
But a lot of people are being put on the spot of past actions. And we all have to think we are all humans at the same time. We all make mistakes.
And we all learn. We can unlearn and learn again. So I think what matters the most is, like, what has that person done in the last, 3-4 years to show progress? And I don't know, I'm just more about people make mistakes, and obviously not everything is, I wouldn't consider everything as oh, everyone makes mistakes, let's move on. But I think certain things can be seen as okay, they screwed up, a learning opportunity. But they've
had an opportunity to grow, and they've shown us over the last so years.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't like cancel culture. I understand certain people do need to be canceled.
Yeah, and I get that. Because going back, fundamentally, people change and people do learn. I think the problem a lot of people have is that we, as a Black person in this country, people will, come up to you and they'll smile in your face or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and they're still racist or they still have these views. So I think that might be one of the...
I think that could
problems,
be why
people don't necessarily
trust that you've changed. But I think it's a little bit more easy to see within a celebrity because, have you spoken out in the last few years about the movement? Have you spoken out against racism, against stereotypes, and what have you done? I think it's easier to kind of see if they've changed their views, unlike maybe a normal person. But I think more...
It's easier to manage or, view their content or whatever,
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, definitely I would love to hear, what you think about this. So definitely leave us a comment,
I want to know what your thoughts are.
Or reach out to us on social media and just let us know.
Don't come at me.
Trying to cancel this girl.
Honestly, don't come at me. I'm sorry if I said anything triggering, but I don't know.
It's a conversation that needs to be had.
It's been in my head for a while, and I'm just I don't feel right canceling someone over any small thing. I know a lot of things that do happen are not small, but with certain things where there's room for redemption, I have trouble just jumping on the bandwagon of canceling someone.
Or at least you want to hear more about
I want to
maybe the context.
Yeah.
I mean, it's honestly
I got the context, but yeah, I what I mean.
It's honestly
I get what you mean.
Yeah, it's just yeah. But leave us just a comment or reach out to us on social media.
Yeah, let us know what you think about it.
Yes, we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Because you got something to say.
Okay, thank you so much for listening, you guys. Hope you have a good week. And once again, just make sure to leave us a rating, a review.
5 stars.
5 stars only. If not, just stop. Yes, we will talk to you next week.
Bye. See you same time.